Hi. Hello, everyone listening to United Latinas Cafecito podcast. I'm so thrilled to be here today with Micaela Sanchez. I'm so honored and grateful that you have taken the time to do this with me today. So, welcome.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I know you and I have talked. We've had some amazing conversations about life stories and journeys and paths and now siblings and families. But I would love for everyone listening if you could give a bit of introduction about yourself. That would be amazing as opposed to me talking
Yeah.
about.
But first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. This is actually my first podcast, so give me just a little grace in case I don't come up as wonderful on the camera. But my name is Micaela. I am a women's health nurse practitioner. I live in Dallas, Texas, and I practice in Texas and New Mexico and Florida with more states to come. And I am the oldest of 10 siblings, as we were talking about earlier, and a mama of two. I have a 23-year-old and a 9-year-old, but I'm also a small business owner. So I started a practice that's called Comadre Health, and I've been doing that solely for the past 4 years, which Comadre Health in itself is very unique because it's a much more boutique, small, focused, personal type of approach whenever it comes to women's health. And I focus a majority of my practice is for Latinas, but all women are welcome. It just happens to be that a lot of my clientels are Latina.
Amazing. Well, I'm so excited that I get to host you as your first podcast. That's amazing.
You can tell me later if I didn't do great. I
Oh
take the
my gosh.
feedback with a grain of salt, but thank you so much.
No, please stop. I mean, listen, just from our couple of conversations, you're going to be great. You're going to be fine. This
Thank
is
you.
going to be amazing. I don't doubt it for a second. It's all good.
Thank you so much.
The one that might mess it up is me, but not you. That will be all
No.
good. um, okay. I love what Comadre Health stands for and all of that. But I would like to hear a little bit more about your origin story because we titled this Cafecito from teen mom to healthcare founder, which is a wide range, right? So maybe give us, everyone listening and seeing this, a little bit more about your origin story, your journey, your background, and then we're going to get into the why of Comadre Health and some practical information for everyone listening too.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm the oldest of 10. I grew up with my dad and my grandmother. My mom wasn't really in the picture. When I became a teenager, there was definitely some rebellious years. I would work in the family business with my dad. I would follow him around, a little shadow. They run restaurants. So, customer
Oh,
service has been deeply ingrained since as far back as I can remember because the restaurants existed before I was even born. Um, so once the teenage years hit, the boy crazy stages started. I had a boyfriend that I met at 14. At 15, I ended up moving in with the boyfriend. As crazy as that sounds now, I think it's something that's still very common in our culture, unfortunately. And I became a mom at 17. I graduated high school and I was 7 months pregnant.
wow.
That journey in itself was um, sometimes whenever I talk about it, it's like as if it was a movie that I watched and not necessarily something that I really lived through, which can sound insane. But when I was pregnant with my daughter after I graduated, I actually had a health scare and a blood clot. So it was something that could have definitely taken my life or my daughter's life during pregnancy. And that was my first exposure to the hospital field, to the nursing, because the nurses were really the ones that took care of me and made me feel safe, seen, heard, and old enough to make these really life-changing decisions. We were in the hospital for 10 days. It was a
Wow.
crazy, really experience. I had my daughter and then registered for school. I would take like one class at a time. I would enroll and drop out. And I mean, it took me 10 years to finish my 4 year degree in nursing. And in those 10 years, I was still kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. One of my friends had registered for nursing, and I was like, you know what? Actually, connecting the dots with what I went through, this sounds like something that I want to do. Became a nurse. And then in nursing school, had another pregnancy and graduated nursing it seems to be a common thread in every time I'm graduating something, I'm pregnant. So then I had my second daughter after nursing school, and I knew I wasn't done. I knew I wanted to keep going. And I did another 2.5 years for my nurse practitioner degree. My first job was nurse practitioner in private practice, standard low income clinic. And I saw myself in every single one of these patients. These were like little Micas. Everybody was either on food stamps or they're on Medicaid. And I just remember that every day felt really rewarding in the sense of like being able to lick those wounds, right? Of some scary stuff that's happening, life-changing things that are changing their trajectory, but also being able to get the opportunity to talk to them as adults, making these decisions, and then just making sure that they really understand some of the decisions that they're making. So that's some of that in a summary.
I mean, that's not a small story.
No.
Yeah. So you know what? Because of the work I do and sort of resilience and like all these things in performance, and I'm so fast, like I guess congratulations. Maybe that's a silly word, but I'm so impressed. That's probably a better word on the fact that like 17, pregnant, you graduated from high school, like then you went into nursing school. Like, what do you think where'd that drive come from? Just
I remember, so my mom was kind of like in and out, but I remember when there was like scare that sex was already happening in my early teens, the discussion was kind of made, or I remember I ended up with some birth control pills at one point, and mom gave them to me, but dad was not about it because like preventative care was not going to happen because that means like green light to sex, which was obviously already taking place, but they weren't ready. Like my dad, my grandmother were not ready to have that conversation. And so I knew that I always wanted to finish school, regardless if I was pregnant. I do remember there being a lot of shame and having to like show up and you're pregnant, everybody. There's whispers.
right.
But at that point, I was like, there's no way I'm going to fail. Now I got to prove everybody wrong that we're going to get through this. And once my daughter was born, then that gave me that sense of purpose. And I always tell her that now. I'm like, no, hombre, yes, had I wished that things may have happened a different way, but now you're my testimony. You're my purpose. Like everything that I've created out of this now is because you came into the picture. And those 10 years until I graduated college were so hard. Right. And I feel like I wish somebody would have really, really broke it down for me. Like this can really change your life and it's going to make everything so much harder and so much more work. But also her existence is also what gave me that drive. Like I have to pull us out of this. I got us here. I got to pull us out. So
yeah, that's so beautiful. And so I think then it's what drives you, I would imagine, where you found the drive to create Comadre Health and be a healthcare founder because of that drive that you found in, I have to graduate high school and then I have to graduate nursing school. And that's so admirable. Family background, where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Dallas, Fort Worth?
So my family's from Monterrey. I'm first generation born here in Dallas, Texas. I grew up in a small neighborhood. Well, it's not small now with gentrification, but Oak Cliff. Right. Oak Cliff used to be like little Mexico. Now it's like where you go and get a latte and you can walk your dog. Totally different. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it's different from whenever we used to grow up. There was a lot of like gang activity and cruising and stuff like that. Now they do cruising on Sundays, like as a family event, but back in the day, it wasn't like that.
I love that. Now they do cruising on a Sunday.
Yes,
with the family.
They take out their old school cars now, but
right,
it wasn't like that before.
Which is a thing. As a side note, my brother lives in Northern California, and there's a couple of towns in Northern California also that sound similar to this, and they do the same thing on like Sundays. They bring out all their like those amazing cars,
beautiful cars,
incredible cars. and they open up the trunks and they put like and they do ofrendas and things, and it's like so colorful and beautiful, and there's like food everywhere, and I'm like,
yes,
what happened to like, it's such a it's such a cool contrast to see
Yes.
that evolution and to see the value in the art and the
And the
beauty.
appreciation for the culture that's being brought forth. And then it's like a merging of cultures. There's a little bit of American in that, and there's Latinos, there's Californian vibes into that as well, because that's its own culture also. So it's a really cool thing to see now, as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's, the Texan influence. There's always that
Hmm.
argument between Tex-Mex and Californian Mex
Uh-huh.
food, and there's that like battle. Anyway, we digress. Let's get back to you. And
Yeah.
so that's, I mean, it is really an impressive and admirable story. But then how did you, so then you went into nurse practitioner and you did sort of traditional nursing. And I love how you found people to resonate with your story and you resonated with their story. And that's such a powerful thing, right? Like how do you address that? Like when you're talking to some of these young women, do you tell them your origin story, or do you
Oh
just
man.
allude to it, or how do you talk to them?
I don't feel like I'm being genuine to myself if I'm not 100% own what I went through, what I lived through. And when I was growing up, there was a sense of shame and like not talking about it, like disassociating with what that like what that was like. Thank God for therapy, right? But therapy now, I own it. Like this is lo que me pasó. That's what happened to me. But
Yeah.
that also is the fuel, the fire, the gas that I use to be able to set up my story and to set myself apart as a provider. In a very unique situation where I went down the traditional route for my degree. I worked in a traditional clinic, but then once I was there, and maybe this is that foundational root with the restaurant, because I watched my family kind of like find, if there's a problem, this is how you fix it. You work around it, right? And you're always working to strive to be better. With this, I was like, man, the Western medicine and traditional medicine insurance practice setup is just not it. It's for the birds. And then once I got in my position, I was like, wow, I'm a cash cow. They want me to work and see as many patients as possible. I go home with the same paycheck, but I see many patients as possible. And I leave work like a dried up dish rag. Like, how did I study for 10 years, killing myself to get here? And this setup is not it. So when that journey ended, I was like, how can I create something where I will still love to go to work? Because this is the population I want to work for. Like, this is who
Mhm.
I want to serve. I want to
Right.
serve lower socioeconomic women. That's where I find the Micas, right? So the Micas, that's my nickname whenever I was growing up. So that's where I want to be. That's where God's calling me. But how can I make it to where I'm not seeing 50 patients on my roster a day, which is ridiculous. That was the day that I decided was my last day, when I saw 52 patients on my
Wow.
roster. I know, girl. And I was like, I'm not, I mean,
That's
I'm a
insane.
superwoman, but I ain't superwoman. So that was the day that I decided, okay, this is it. Like, I have to figure something else out. I know how to do things. Like, I have skills. A ver cómo le hago. And little by little, speaking my ideas into the universe, really, the people who have partnered with me up until now are really the reason that I was able to start Comadre Health, because it's definitely not traditional. And there's a lot of patient education that comes with that, because I have to tell patients, this isn't traditional clinic. Like, you're going to work with me and we're going to work intimately, and our visit's going to be 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Let's talk about it. Let's see what's going on in life, what's going on with your health. Much different approach, much more personable, but I also think it's a lot more rewarding.
Yeah, let's go back a step. Like, I think what you said is so powerful, and also for Latinas or women listening to this or watching this, and they have that idea or they see an opportunity. That day that you walked out and you said, "I saw 52 patients. There's more to this."
There was
How do we?
52 patients scheduled. That's probably not how many showed up. I can't even tell you how many showed up, but I remember counting and I was like, oh my God. And it was a common thread. I talked to my other classmates that were in the field as well, and they were like, that's too many. But yeah, that's how I feel, like a cash cow.
Yeah, and so, and I can relate to it on a slightly different level because I spent years working in hospitals and working with the nursing teams. And then, I then had people say to me, why is that nurse in such a bad mood? Or why is that nurse acting this way or that way? And I'm like, really? Like they're working 12 to 16-hour days.
Exactly.
They're not being paid probably what they deserve to be paid. And, they're trying to balance it all in a super busy, super populated hospital. And it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And they naturally, all of you nurses are natural caregivers. That is what you do. That's who you are. So then to turn around and actually take care of yourselves and take a moment to stop is not inherent. It's not a natural trait because you go into the field of nursing because you want to be a caregiver, because it's
right.
And also because I love your origin story of that experience giving birth to your daughter, because I think that's also where you hear a lot of people go into the medical field, the clinician nursing, because they went through a personal experience in a hospital and they want to build on that. But let's go back to, okay, so that day you walk out, how did you come up with Comadre Health? Who did you talk to? What was that journey?
In that clinic, they had a partnership with a nonprofit, and that nonprofit had worked with me multiple times to just relay my story. I guess I must have told them my story at one point, and then it was at a pivotal point where my oldest was starting to date, and I found myself. It's so crazy, right? That string theory. Like I found myself in the exact same position, but now I'm the mother, and my daughter's at that pivotal point. Oh my God! Now we got to talk about birth control. I'm not ready, but I got to break this generational curse because my abuela was a teen mom, my mom was a teen mom, I was a teen. It stops here. The buck stops here. So I was at that point where I got to figure out how am I going to help her make a decision if this is what she wants, right? And this organization focuses, it's called Trust Her. It focuses on accessibility to birth control, regardless of being insured or what you make. So it was a beautiful thing. We obviously connected, right? Because I told them my story, and then my daughter's at that point too. So I'm talking to them, and oh my God, my daughter's at this point, but I got to get over it. And when I left, I told them, I was like, hey, that chapter has ended. If I wanted to start something, like, do you guys partner with sole providers? And they hadn't until that point. So then it was like, okay, let's see what that looks like. What does that mean for me? Maybe I can do virtual telemedicine. And that's what it started as, was just virtual. And it was just like it would be like one little patient a week. Started poco a poco. Very humble beginnings.
Well, we all have to start somewhere. I mean, so I always, when I talk to other founders or entrepreneurs more as a mentor, I always say, don't start so big. Because if you start so big and you try to be everything to everybody, then your potential of failure is much bigger. But if you build it up step by step, it becomes a lot more powerful. And then you can get massive and super big. I'm not saying don't get big, but I'm saying really build. So I feel like you found a really interesting niche and a really interesting opportunity.
I did. I do. I understand that 100%, because even the now in-person setups is even a interesting niche as well. I work out of a small studio with other practitioners that do their own stuff. But my little office is my Comadre Health world, where we do anything under the sun for women's health, but it's focused on women's health. So you can get a Botox, but you can also get a pap smear. So it just depends on what's going on. But it works, and I wish I
love that. Pap smear, Botox,
whatever you need.
Birth control. we do it all.
Yes. But it works, it works for me. It as an entrepreneur, it keeps the overhead costs low, which is wonderful whenever you're in your first few years.
Yeah.
And then it gives me that freedom that obviously I really love, because I'm still here.
Right, of course. Now, do you still have the relationship with the nonprofit? Are they still feeding you patients? Is that how you get most of your patients, or is it a combination?
Yeah, so it's my reproductive patients are going to be majority through the nonprofit. So the nonprofit fits the bill, meaning that if you're in Dallas County, you're uninsured and you're seeking birth control counseling or methods, or maybe you just don't know and you want to talk to somebody about it, then they'll foot the bill if you don't have access to insurance, which is a beautiful thing because that removes
Amazing.
so many barriers. You can have
Yeah.
this visit in English, you can have it in Spanish. I speak Spanish. So it opens a lot of doors for people who normally wouldn't have access. Now, maybe they qualify for a government assisted visit with Parkland Hospital or those hospitals that have those large grants. Sometimes those visits are 6, 7 months in advance.
Wow.
Meanwhile, they're unprotected, so
Right.
this removes that because if you make an appointment today, potentially you could see me today or tomorrow. So that's different. It's much different, but it's also a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I think that's so incredibly valuable.
I think so too. Time is of the essence when it comes to our reproductive health.
Yes. But so you focus more on that age group, or I mean, because we were saying from Botox to pap smear, but
Yeah,
is that sort of your niche is more the
reproductive health.
health?
Yeah, so reproductive health is the part with the nonprofit, but then I also, because I am someone in my 40s, um, I realized,
Looking
oh my gosh, my
fabulous, of course.
menopause girlies, all my amigas are going to be right behind me on this menopause journey. So now you can come to me as well for access to menopause counseling, whether that means, what does that look like for you? Do you need hormone replenishment? Do we need to talk about natural supplements that we can do to kind of buffer until we may need something? What is the patient comfortable with? So it's a wide spectrum now. Anytime from starting your cycle to when the cycle's out the window and what are we going to do after that. So it's a broad spectrum of patients.
And so how do the other patients come to you that are not through the nonprofit? Is that just out of pocket, or do you take certain insurance? How does that work for
It can
Comadre Health?
so Comadre Health doesn't take insurance. So
Okay.
with me, it's going to be cash pay, but we also finance because we understand that sometimes,
Right.
who has it sometimes. However, if you have health insurance, you're more than welcome to use it where the health insurance will pay for it, whether that's your prescriptions at the pharmacy or the labs that potentially I'm going to want to run so that we can see what the whole picture is. And then the consultation with me would be cash.
That's amazing. I love that you can do that combination. I feel like that's also really necessary in today's world because sometimes you really
Mm-hmm.
want to see a particular practitioner, specialist, clinician, but you don't have the insurance to cover that. But maybe your insurance, as you said, will cover
Mm-hmm.
the labs or they'll
Right.
cover certain testing at a hospital, and then you can review that.
Exactly.
And I loved what you said earlier that you are licensed in 3 places. So
Mm-hmm.
Texas, Florida, what
New
was the third?
Mexico,
New Mexico.
and
So
then a
talk a
couple
little
of
bit about that. Sorry. Is there more places?
some of them are pending. It can take a few weeks before other states will get
Okay.
approved. But yeah, so even if a person wanted to discuss reproductive health all the way to menopause and you're not in Texas, that's okay because you can still make a visit with me. It would be virtual. You can still get your labs done. You can still get imaging done. You can still do all the things. The only thing that I wouldn't be able to do right off the bat is a pap smear, right? Because that has to be in person. But you
Right.
can still do like STI screening. There's a lot of things that you can do virtually and we can still build that relationship and it will still feel much more intimate as if we were in the room together. So those options are available for Florida, New Mexico, and Texas. If you're in Dallas or near Dallas, you're more than welcome to come in person and do those things. Y si Dios quiere, hopefully a few more states, because I've gotten some calls from Arkansas. I've had clients actually drive from other states to come and see me.
Wow.
I know, isn't that? I was like,
That's so beautiful. I
I
love that.
that's so too. I was like, man, I can't believe you guys made the drive. But I think I would do the same thing if I felt a connection with the patient, right? So, or with the provider.
So how do these people in Arkansas find you?
So that one found me through Google, which
Oh,
I work with to help with my business. I work with Unstoppable Latina, which I think I found her through you guys on
oh.
LinkedIn somehow. Tú sabes, the
I know.
algorithm puts
Los
something in front of
círculos.
me. Yes. So working with her and she helped me with my branding. She helps me with my SEO in the background to help the clients find me. If they're Googling something, si Dios quiere, my name will pop up.
And I should have asked you this earlier, but how did you come up with the name?
So I was actually having dinner with my primas, and there was a gynecologist here in Texas that had just made like a really cute boutique RV. She was Americana, so it was like more branded to that side. And I was like, oh, I love that. What if I did something like, I don't know, Comadre Health, so that all the comadres can come and see her comadre or something like that. And then my other cousin and best friend at the time were like, people call their period comadre. And I was like, really? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Wow.
I didn't either. But she was like, yeah, we'll say like whenever the comadre is visiting. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's set. We're going to be Comadre Health. And now, we branded around that. And I worked with that marketer, which she was lovely. She got the vision. It was a beautiful journey trying to brand it, because initially I didn't have a great branding. I had the idea. I didn't know how to execute it though.
And that's amazing. Talk a little bit about that, right? Like the other thing when we talk about founders, entrepreneurs, small business owners, asking for help sometimes is not easy. And no. I'm going to throw this back, Micaela, to being the eldest Latina daughter. We're not great at asking for help, right?
No. I don't know if that's like a pride thing, if that's just like very deeply ingrained, like we have got to figure it out because ain't nobody going to come and save us. I went through a pitch competition and I got feedback at the pitch competition, right? But I also understood at the pitch competition that they didn't get my vision. Maybe I didn't relay it right. Maybe it was the branding. Maybe they didn't understand it. They were like, how are you going to compete with ZocDoc or Teladoc? And I was like, no, you're not getting it. If you're on ZocDoc and Teladoc, you got insurance. That's not who I'm catering to.
Right.
So that's when I was like, okay, now I see what the problem is. We got to invest in branding. It has to make sense that when they land on my page, that they see what I'm trying to do. And I need somebody else to do that because I can't do it all. Meanwhile, still seeing patients, right? So it was a painful experience, the pitch competition, but it was a growing experience, which usually growth is uncomfortable.
Yeah, but sometimes it's great to think out of the box or to go out of our comfort zone and say, I need help with this. I need an advisor with this. I need a consultant with this, or I need support here. That doesn't mean I'm doing less. That just means someone may be an expert here that I'm not. I could talk to you forever, but we're going to run out of time. So
okay. It's okay.
A couple of things.
Great.
No, because future for Comadre Health, like where do you see, are you targeting more, it sounds to me, but correct me if I'm wrong, more areas throughout the United States that maybe don't service Latino neighborhoods or have, where Latinas don't have access to this kind of information. And that's why you're going telehealth or virtual too?
Yeah, so I'm extending the telehealth just to have more access to Latino communities in different areas. For example, Florida, New Mexico, Illinois is going to be one of them. They have large populations of Latinos, and we deserve this kind of quality of care. It doesn't have to be just cruddy care. So that's the goal. Y si Dios quiere, if I could speak it into the future, what do I see for me? Hopefully, it'll be an app where you can find a comadre anywhere you're located in the 50 states. And I can find like-minded comadres that would love to work in the same mission. And we're all working together in after the same goal, providing good quality care for Latinas, much like ourselves, and growing this business, this little baby dream that God put on my heart.
I love that so much. That is such a beautiful story and so needed as someone that spends a lot of time in the healthcare world. We definitely, I'm very fortunate. You are Dallas, Fort Worth, New York, the bigger cities have access, but there's a lot of rural areas or smaller cities or smaller towns that are, Latinas are there and there isn't that same level of access. So thank you for creating something like that and looking to the growth. Before we go, two last questions. What are some practical tips or information on women's health that you want to leave the people, our United Latinas members listening? I know perimenopause and menopause is something really important for our general United Latinas population, there's always these discussions about what are we going to do, how are we going to do it. So if there's any tips that you would like to leave us with.
On the reproductive health, have the uncomfortable conversations. Have the uncomfortable conversations with the young population that's behind you. Like, we are the ones that are paving the way for those behind us. It is so important, even if it makes us uncomfortable, give women the opportunity for that decision making. Just the opportunity. The conversation in itself is so vital. The women's health side, we do not have to suffer through these hormonal changes. Have those conversations as well. There are options out there for us. We just have to have those conversations, be open to it. And it is no one shoe fits all. You have to figure out what works for you, and give yourself some grace, give your provider some grace too, because there's going to have to be some tweaking in the first 3 to 6 months. But let me tell you, once you get that magic potion, you're going to feel so much better.
So much better.
Oh my
so much better. I can attest to you feel so much better. But what I say to people, not in the healthcare field, is don't be afraid to be your own best advocate.
Exactly.
Like, if things aren't working for you, ask and ask again. And
don't suffer through it.
No. And also, the other thing I feel like in the Latina world is don't be afraid to go ask your mom or your grandmother when they went through these things, right? So it goes both ways. Like, don't be afraid to ask previous generations the questions. Like, my mother never talked about it. My grandmother never talked about it. And I've had to figure it out. Right. And I wish they would have had
options, which is so crazy. I feel so bad for that generation before us. Like, what did you guys do? Y'all were not going crazy. Y'all were just, stuff was depleted.
But they were told they were going crazy. And then also, on the same note, which I've had conversations on this Cafecito too with clinicians and healthcare providers and nurse practitioners, not to be afraid to have the conversation with the next generation. Right?
Absolutely.
Talk about what you're talking about of like reproductive and birth control and also mental health. And what are you feeling? Like, don't be afraid to talk to your daughters about that as well. And, try to find a common ground without a lot of judgment, which is, the way we grew up, but there was a lot of judgment.
I know.
So maybe don't transfer that to your daughters. But that's amazing. I so love what you're doing, and I so honor it, and I'm so impressed. So Micaela, if United Latina members want to find you, they want to have a consultation with you, they want to talk to you, where can they find you? How do they find you? If they're not in Dallas, we are growing a Dallas chapter to come, which is very exciting. And Austin and San Antonio. We're taking over Dallas. But
they can find me at comadrehealth.com. Instagram, I also have an Instagram. It's comadre_health as well. And then all of my info is in the bio as well on the Instagram. And they can find me on Facebook as well under Comadre Health.
All right. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was so fun.
With me. You are amazing. Your story is so inspiring. I hope everyone listening to this or who will listen to it later on YouTube gets inspired and takes care of their health, which is so important, and supports.
We deserve it.
We really do. We really do. And again, thank you for creating Comadre Health. And
thank you, Karina.
I can't wait to see all the incredible things you do with it and how it grows.
Thank you so much. Si Dios quiere. Yes.
Si Dios quiere.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.